Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to tackle the question, what makes us us and what does not? And this is a question you will be grappling with and which probably starts you on your awakening, in your awakening and through your ascension journey. What makes you who you are? What makes up your personality, what makes up the core essence of you. And I know that the simple answer, would be, well, your soul makes you what you are, right? And in theory, that's true. There are a lot of different aspects to our soul. Our ego is the unconscious aspect of our soul. But there are a lot of subsets in there that our human consciousness will make us believe it makes us who we are, right? And as soon as we understand that these things don't make us who we are, it's a lot easier for us to let them go. And a lot easier for us to not be holding on to them. And there's a lot of things that we can throw in here that you might think, oh, well, no, I never considered that making me who I am. But I think if we look deeper, we really see that a lot of this does define who we are. Now we can go with the very physical things, whether your race, your religion. A lot of times in our human consciousness are very defined by these things, right? Race and religion are two of the big ones that kind of can define us in our human reality as to who we are. That's part of us. It's heritage. It gets into ancestral DNA. It gets into who we are. Now, it's important to remember when you get into your ascension journey that a lot of those things don't matter anymore because you start to see the multidimensional aspects of who you are and realize you've been everything. So if you've been every race, you've been technically associated with every religion, doesn't really matter where you fall on it now. It doesn't really define who we are, right? It doesn't really, but in this reality, if we associate with it, it links us to a collective, right? And when that collective goes through something, we go through something. Our sexual preference, that's another one that can define us in our human realities. And we get really wrapped up into those collectives and who we are, and that's part of me. You hear so many people talk about these things, well, that's part of me. There's a story to it. There's a history to it. There's, whether it's, even if we go to beyond the physical stuff, our voice. Does our voice make us who we are? Now I have said your voice is going to change as you go through your ascension process because it starts to tune to the higher frequencies, so it starts to communicate with higher pitches and tones. So it does change. And when you're in different aspects, you'll notice it changes. When you're in your power aspects, you'll notice it feels a little deeper. When you're in your fifth dimensional phases, it'll feel a little lighter and fluffier. So is it reflected, in who you are? Yes, your ascension will reflect through your voice, but your voice doesn't make you who you are, in a sense. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have a voice to still be in your ascension process. Because your ascension process and what you're learning through your ascension processes, it's your presence, it's your field, it's your energy presence altogether. It's not about what your hair looks like. It's not about any of those physical things, even though we will still do those physical things, a lot of us. Because it can put you in a mindset to, go to work, or I'm going to go do this today. I want to fix my hair or put makeup on or get dressed or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You'll do these things but in a different way. You'll do them, but they don't define who you are. Anything we're using to define us will quickly be removed because your universe is going to show you that these things do not define you. They are not you. It doesn't matter. Any of the things we've talked about in the beginning of this video, none of that stuff matters. Now, when you start going through beyond just the physical gender stuff, okay, so if we throw all that out, because none of that matters, male, female, that doesn't even define us. It doesn't matter. It's all the galactic races are non-gender. It doesn't matter, So, okay, so let's throw all that stuff out. Okay, now where are we at? Or does our job define us? How successful we are at a job. All these things will define you. In human realities and human consciousness, you can say they don't define you, but they do. They 100% do. It's how you link up to certain collectives. It's in your DNA. When you're looking at other people through your human lens and through your human consciousness, these things, you map out certain things about people based on all of these things, right? You map out, where someone lived, or, the background they came from, their social economic class. All these things have a definition in human realities. But you will find your ascension process starts to strip everything out. So the lesser we are to all of these things, the easier our ascension process is. The more we let go of all these things, it does not matter. A lot of people are into your DNA, ancestral DNA right now. It's a big thing. It's a lot of big ancestral DNA clearing. So a lot of people want to go through their DNA or go through their family tree. And it's a way for them to clear. It's a way for them to tap into that consciousness. It's a way for them to explore in kind of a playful way. And it's funny because even in human consciousness, your universe kind of would direct you there, but it would try to do it through fear. Like, you want to know who your ancestors are in case there's some kind of, health thing in there. So you want to have an idea of who had what, and it made us kind of go farther in research if we didn't know these things. And so our universe will kind of play tricks on us like that to get us to go through these things. So a lot of these things you can go through and identify with for a time, but then you have to let them go. And if you try to hold on to them, your ascension process is going to be a very rocky road because none of these things are who you are anymore. And that gets tricky when you meet up with people you haven't seen in a long time that remember your human persona, in a sense, your human aspect. And you're so different from that now that all those things that they defined you by no longer define you. So they don't really understand. And that's the big disconnect we come to when we're going through our awakening or in our ascension. And other people aren't there and they're not going through it yet. It's not their time yet. So they look at us like, what's going on? How can you stop all these things that made you you? Whether it be where you went to college, whether it be what you're doing as a career, whether it be if you're a mother or you're not a mother or a father, or none of those relationships truly matter on the grander scale of ascension, because everyone technically is just a soul. It doesn't matter. We get bogged down on whether it's a brother or sister or mother or father or our children. We tend to attach more story to it. We attach more accountability. They seem to matter more. They're not just a soul, going through their process. They're something more to me. They define us. They give us a community. They give us a tribe in a sense. All these things will kind of, after a while, really define who you are. And we get so wrapped up in all these definitions of who we are, it's really tough for us to break through that when we go through our ascension. And that's one of the hardest parts, letting all that go. Letting your friend groups go because they don't define you. Letting go of your stories, whether they even be the most traumatic victim stories. And people will say, I don't want to be remembered like that. But that's how we continue to identify ourselves. Whether you see the survivor language, that's a big word that gets thrown around because you're carrying that story forward. It wasn't just an experience you went through to get to a different frequency for your body. Now you identify with that. Now I'm a survivor. Now I'm going to continue to continue to spread this message. Now I don't want to let that story go because that has defined who I am. You see a lot of that in the personas people make up for themselves. That these are important to them. This makes them who we are. This whole thing makes us who we are. And none of this stuff is going to matter. None of it matters. I cannot stress enough how none of it matters. Because when you start getting into your higher aspects and embodying in those aspects, a lot of this stuff has to be shed, because if it doesn't, then we still are technically never leaving the human realities. We're still stuck in them. We're still stuck in what we thought made us who we are. And a lot of these stories we say, we're going to leave that behind. Even the whole twin flame thing and the whole romanticizing of that. If we get super caught up in that, and when you're in it, you are going to be super caught up in it. So if you're in it right now and you're super caught up in it, you're supposed to be. But eventually you will have to get out of it, and you will have to say, that does not define me. My partners do not define me. None of this stuff defines who I am. My health status, that sounds like a weird one to say, but it's true. So many people get caught up in all of that stuff, or what they've had, or what they might have, or go get screened for this and go get screened for that, because it's part of this collective that kind of tries to suck you back in, have you had this test done? Have you had this test done? All of these things that seem almost benign in a sense, keep trying to keep us in a certain mindset, keep us in a certain belief set, keep us like this is the only way to go. And we have to have all these subsets. We have to have middle class and upper class and a lower class. And we have to keep all these things separate because these are all identifying markers for people. And it's all bullshit. because none of it matters. You're going to find when you go through Ascension, you can be upper class and go to lower class very quickly, and none of it's going to matter. You can go from having this job and being, running a company, and then you're mopping floors. It's all going to get stripped away. So it's really important for us to look at, what do we think makes us us? What do we really look at and go, that makes me me? And you might be surprised what you really feel like makes you you, whether it be the color of your hair. A lot of these things feel kind of, well, when I say them, they feel kind of surfacey, but I think if we really look at some of them, your zodiac sign, that's another one. So many people get so identified into that. And it's not that these things can't activate us to something else and show us something else, but we're not just these things. And a lot of them get purified along the way. We've talked about how our zodiac sign kind of gets purified with a lot of other things we go through. And that's when our relationships get purified too. Your zodiac sign comes back in, but your zodiac sign is going to come back in with the positive traits to help you through Ascension. Those are going to be your anchor points in a way to get you through some of your really strong personality. A lot of people think they lose their personality when they go through Ascension. They're not the same. Your personality gets cleaned up a little bit. You don't have that dark side to your personality, which we all have. You just emanate light. And you emanate the lighter sides, in a way, of that personality, the cleaner sides of that personality. But you still have a core essence of who you are, because all the aspects of your soul is who you are. There's just so little of that in your body. We're so separated off of all these other things. Whether it be, I know I was going to say zodiac sign. There was another one that came in, and I lost it. I should have said it right when I had it, because it kind of came in. And even if it's books you like, if you're big into Tolkien, or you're big into Star Wars, or you're big into Marvel, or you're big into any kind of show, all these things kind of tend to separate us off, and we get all wrapped up in this kind of stuff. And we will get very marred into, this is what makes me who I am. And I know I mentioned this, but I'm going to take it from another angle. Oh, I'm a mother, right? And that's their only identity. And when that identity goes and their kids grow up, it's almost like people eventually will go through what they call the, midlife crisis, because all their identities get stripped, and what they have left, they think they identify with, they don't anymore. It can also be, the political thing. That's going to be an identity for a lot of people, and what side they go up against, because all this divides you. Everything that's going to divide you off, it's meant to divide you, but you've always had all of your higher aspects, whether they're in your body or floating in your field, and you're not embodying enough of them for them to really influence your actions consciously. They're still part of you. So you never really lose the essence of you, but all this other extraneous stuff completely will get stripped away, because it is not important. We talked about, the astrology signs, and I swear, I wish I could think of the other one. It really was a good example, and I cannot remember what it was. Maybe I'll get it toward the end. These things are going to sit there and say, even, I'm married, I'm not married. Anytime you have to fill out a form, you have to go through and fill out all these different things, about your life. And that's this life is such a small part of who you are in the multidimensional space. It's such a small part of who you are, but yet we put so much identity into it. And when we try to break out of it, we break out of it little by little, but there always gets to this point where we're like, oh, I don't want to let that go. Even if it was something horrific in our human experience, we're going to paint as that was awful and horrific, but I don't want to let that go, because there's something still there for me. I'm still getting something from that. There's still a part of me that feels like that made me who I am, but none of that stuff made you who you are. All of that stuff just allowed you to get your frequency up by clearing certain things in the body, to get your body frequency up, to get to your next aspect of you. None of it made you you. It just paved the way for you to become you. But they're not you. And the more we hang on to all this stuff, and hang on to what we were, and hang on to all the different things, and you can go through a list of a zillion different things of what you think identifies you. And you're going to realize no matter how deep you go, it's all still window dressing on who you really are, because a lot of this stuff will also distract us into finding who we are. Right? I see so many people want to go find who they are. I'm going to go find myself. Everyone's going to go on a journey and find their true self. You don't have to look far to find your true self. True self is out there. True self is in your field. Some of your true self is in your body. It's a very small part of it. Your true self is your soul aspect selves. It's your galactic selves, all kind of mushed together. That's what you're trying to actually get through, going through your ascension process, going through the different dimensions of your process, hitting different levels of consciousness in your process. Because that whole I'm going to say, how many times can you say process? That whole ascension, I'll use the J word, journey, is to get you to shed all the stuff that's not you. But no matter how much people say, oh, I don't care about that, oh, I don't care about that, the minute we have to leave it behind, we have to leave that relationship behind, we have to leave being a parent behind, we have to leave being a daughter behind, or you know, we have to leave being a child behind, and we have to move on. Because we have to, you know, we have to stop looking at ourselves as being into 100 groups. You could probably do a list and paint yourselves into probably 15 groups and not even think about it. You know, you can 15 different classes you're going to attach up to, 15 different collectives you're going to attach up to. But none of it matters. You know, none of it really matters. But we do have this identity with it. And when we start to shed that identity, the ones you're the strongest to will be the first ones you have to let go. Because if you don't, then your journey is going to be harder and harder and harder to get through. Because your universe is going to show you none of that stuff makes you who you are. It's all just a distraction to look for who you are. That's why a lot of the stuff starts getting taken away, whether it be, you know, your kids move away or your animals pass away or, you know, all these things you had identity to. You had money, you lost money. You had a career, you lost that. Your human's going to look at it as you've lost it all. It starts taking all this stuff away, but then it starts getting into the deeper stuff. Because some of that looks like you can look at this video and say, well, yes, Annette, that's all window dressing. My job, my religion, all that doesn't really matter. Even my gender or, you know, my color, none of that stuff really matters. But what about our stories? You know, whether we survived that or we stood up to that or whatever it is that we've attached a story to. And now we weave that into our identity. All that, and that's really where our programs, all those, that's how we kind of set our beliefs, set our programs. They'll say that a child's whole belief system is set in the first 7 years. The groundwork is set in the first 7 years, but nothing is really ingrained in those children in the first 7 years. What they do is they start repeating the patterns, and that's what starts ingraining it in. In the first 7 years, it's just like a thought in a sense. But the more they enact into the realities and interact in the realities, are driven to make certain decisions, that's what starts ingraining in these beliefs that these things are important. And they make up who we are. And you have the whole mental health push now to kind of make us accept some of this stuff. And I can't even think of the word, but kind of bring all this stuff in, you know, but none of it's really important anymore. None of it really matters. Can you imagine the freedom when you can just say, none of that shit matters. You know, your ascended self is not your human self. And that's a prior existence. It's a past life, if you want to call it that. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. None of those people you knew, in a sense, matter. None of it makes a difference. Because it does not define who you are. That is not your true self. Your ascended self is your true self. And as you go through your ascension, you go through your soul, bringing in those aspects of you, you will feel different, but you're still in there. It's just there was so much other crap in there that your true self wasn't able to really come through. So all these things that we think make us who we are, none of it makes us who we are. So when you start really trying to peel back that onion and figure out what makes me, what am I attached up to? Because a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm not attached to any of that story. If they're going to tell the story 100 times, they're going to keep repeating the same story with 15 other people. Or reenacting the same story out with 15 other people because they so want to continue the story going because they get an identity from it. They're getting sympathy from it. They're getting something from it. And we've all used external things to give us value. And that's basically what it is. What are the things that we felt gave us value in the human realities or devalued us in the human realities? You can look at it both ways, but they're still ingrained in who you are, whether you saw it as an asset or you saw it as something that was not an asset. It's still framed who we felt like we were. So until we can let those things go and truly move out of all these human identities and all these things that made us who we are, who we thought we were, we can truly get into what we are becoming through our ascended journey. And what we have to really let go of, and I know I've said that a couple times in this video, but it's really important to reiterate it, because there's so many times in this journey you're going to get to something and you won't even have seen how much it impacts your day to day, but it does impact your day to day because it's who you thought you were, you know, and how it shaped every decision you made. And it could have shaped every decision you made since you were 8 years old. But it doesn't mean a shit once you go through ascension. It does not matter. It does not matter. None of those decisions matter. None of that stuff matters. Look at it as a whole past existence. Strip it all down. Take it all out. And don't let it give credence to, don't let it be the stuff that holds you back to going forward, because it's going to get stripped away anyway. You can't keep it, because your universe knows you're too attached to it, and it's going to hamper what you have to do later on when you try to continue to identify with all these human things, all these human value systems that gave you worth or it did not give you worth. And look how much is played up. You know, anything that keeps getting played up in the media, the human media, you know, it's trying to keep you kind of locked in this, you know, it's either a good guy or a bad guy. You know, you're either the good guy in the story, you're the bad guy in the story. It doesn't really matter. We've been all of them. We just have to learn and let it all go. Resolve it. See what really keeps holding us back. See what really keeps holding us there. Because those are the things that are the most important things for us to start to shed. Because you are not any of those things. Make your list. You'll be shocked at how many things you identify with. All right. Even movements, let me throw that one in. Feminism, masculinity, toxic masculinity, none of it matters. But you're still going to all kind of want to throw yourselves in all of these too. Whether you're a tomboy, whether you, it doesn't matter. None of these things truly matter. But you're going to continue to find that even collegiate, your football team you like, you know, you're attached to so many different collectives, and people want to know why is it so tough when we start trying to disconnect from a lot of it. And it's not like some of these things can come back in, but they're going to come back in a pure state. They're going to come back in without all the taint to it. We're not controlled by it. All this stuff controls us, and we don't even see how much it controls us. It keeps us in fear of leaving. It keeps us in fear of the other side, whatever the other side is for us. It keeps us in fear. So we don't really want to leave, because we're so afraid we're going to lose ourselves. That's one of the biggest tropes in human reality. Oh, I'm going to lose myself. We hope that's all part of ascension, to lose all of that, to leave it all at the curve and keep going. Okay. Keep practicing the art of intuition.